Today we're going to talk about stars.
Stars.
How do you get them to be pointy? Huh?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Starless pages have stars on the arms.
I love it. Today we are actually going to start in a standing position, and so I'm going to actually invite all of us to stand up. I just sat down, I know, because I'm just so used to doing that. Let me scooch this back just a smidge, so that way we can do that. We are going to start with our feet wide apart, almost like we're getting ready to do wide open A, but our feet are out at just like a 45-degree angle here. We're just gonna take a nice deep breath in, arms up overhead, palms together, exhale to heart center. Let's do several of those. Inhale, deep breath, palms together, exhale. Do another one, inhale up, palms together, and exhale. And the last one, inhale, arms up, palms together, and exhale. We're going to start to slowly bend forward. If you need to bend your knees here to be able to reach the floor for a bit of support, feel free to do that. Or you can just fold forward. Just starting off nice and easy. Here, if you need to use your shins for support, you can always put your palms on your shins or on your knees too. And then turning your toes toward the long edge of the mat. We're coming into that wide open A. Tucking your chin, releasing any tension you feel along the backside of your neck and shoulders. And then here, we're going to start to bend one knee at a time, coming down slightly to the left side, and then coming back to center, and then coming down to the right side, and back to center. Just getting a little bit of dynamic stretching here, kind of warming up the inside of those thighs and the back side of those legs. Breathing deeply while you do so. Coming back to center. This time, if you want to heel toe your feet in just slightly. So you're still a little bit further apart than hip width apart, but you're not quite as wide as what you were. Notice how when you bring your feet in just that little bit, it changes the stretch on the back side of your legs. So you might have been feeling it more on the inner thigh and the back part of your hamstrings. And when you heel toe your feet in just slightly, you might feel how that moves to a different part of your hamstring, but also then engages the outside of your legs a little bit as well. So again, tucking your chin, allowing the crown of the head to fall down toward the mat. When you're ready, we're going to bend our knees, put our hands on our knees, and then very slowly round up. Here we're going to take our arms out to either side. And then if you can, you're going to start to take your opposite hand to the opposite foot as you bend over. So again, we're doing a little bit of dynamic stretching here. So we're bending down and then coming back up and then bending down to the other side. Coming back up. Yeah.
We did these in PE.
I love it.
Flash
Toe touches, is what they used to call them,
Oh,
right?
we did them fast.
Sure. Those quick twitch muscles, right? So then coming back to center, go ahead and drop those arms down. You're going to heel toe those feet out again. Again, bringing your feet at about 45-degree angle. This pause. This mat is a little bit slippery for me, so I'm gonna see if I can fold this over to get a little bit more grip. Yeah, that's better. Isn't that funny? Okay. So here, we're gonna bend our knees, coming down into our goddess pose or horse pose. Thinking about pressing your knees back toward the back wall or the wall behind you. And then when you're ready, you're gonna stand up out of this position, taking your arms out to either side for star pose. Yep, you got it. And then go ahead and come back down into goddess pose when you're ready. And then just go back and forth between those two.
Can we keep our back straight or move?
Yeah, so you want to keep your back straight. Think about softening your tailbone down when you do this. Otherwise, you lose a little bit of leverage. So if you do like this, that really gets back here. If you're doing it like this, then you're engaging the inner thigh.
That's fine.
Yeah. So we're gonna do 5 or 6 of these. See if you can come down a little lower next time. One more. And then go ahead and stand up. Release those arms down. Heel toe those feet together. Now we're going to inhale both arms up. Palms together. Exhale all the way forward. Taking some deep breaths here. If you like, you can bend one knee at a time again, just like we did in our forward fold of our wide open A position. And then coming back to center, we're going to go ahead and bend both knees very deeply, coming down into a little squat here. Pausing just for a moment. See if you can open up your chest in this position. And then if you can, start to work your feet out to either side. So almost like you were coming into like a leapfrog sort of a position. We call this garland pose in yoga. You can take your elbows to the inside of your knees and press back, bringing your hands to heart center. Very good. And placing your hands on the floor in front of you, we're going to go ahead and get out of that pose. So coming down onto our knees. We're going to come into our all fours position. So hands underneath our shoulders, knees underneath our hips. We'll start with some cat-cows. So go ahead and drop that belly, tailbone comes up, head comes up. As we inhale, and then as we exhale, tucking that tailbone, arching the back, tucking the chin. Go ahead and follow your breath. Inhaling your cow when you're ready. And then exhaling your cat. Going at your own pace. When you come into cow next time, see if you can try to press your ribcage down toward the mat. And when you come into your cat pose, see if you can really stretch between those two shoulder blades. And coming down to the mat, we're going to come first to neutral and then walk our hands forward. Lower ourselves all the way down to the mat. Go ahead and kind of make a little pillow for yourself out of your arms. Resting your head down. Just taking some deep breaths here. If you would like, you can bring your feet up, and then you can kind of windshield right over your legs back and forth, releasing any tension you feel in that low back space.
And you can kind of switch back and forth from this windshield wiper pose to coming back to center and allowing those legs to rest down. And when you're ready, you can bring those feet back up and start to windshield wiper those feet again. As I tell you all a little story. So today's part of our meditation today is talking about the story of the elephant. And the story goes that there was a lone elephant, and he was walking through the forest, and he was searching for someone to be his friend. And he first went to the frog, and he said, "Can I be your friend?" And the frog said, "Well, you are too big, and you can't jump like I do, so no, you cannot be my friend." And the elephant walks on a little further, and he comes to a rabbit and says, "Can I be your friend?" And the rabbit says, "No, you cannot fit into my burrow, so you cannot be my friend." And then he goes to a puppy dog that he sees and says, "Can I be your friend?" And the puppy dog says, "No, you can't wag your tail and run around as fast as I can, so you can't be my friend." And he does this to several other animals in the forest, but all of whom eventually comment about how the elephant is not like them and how because of that reason, he can't be their friend. So then later that same day, the elephant hears some commotion, and he sees a tiger that is trying to attack all of these little creatures. And the elephant stands in front of the tiger and says, "Please don't, just leave them alone." And the tiger ignores him and continues to try to attack them. And the elephant says, "You will not harm them." And so then he kicks the tiger, and the tiger runs away because the elephant has defended these little animals. And at that point, the little animals look at the elephant and they said, "You know what? We think you are just the right size to be our friend." So when we're ready, we're going to go ahead and move ourselves up onto our elbows. We're going to spread out our fingers nice and wide, thinking about softening our shoulders down away from our ears, about elongating our necks. Breathing deeply. And then we're going to take that left hand, cross it over in front of you. We're going to reach behind and pull that right leg in toward our body for frog pose. I was thinking earlier today about the quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that says, "You fear what you do not know." And I think so often in our friendships, we end up choosing people who are exactly like us because we do fear a little bit of what we don't know. So I guess one of the questions that we could ask ourselves today is, who are our friends and what kind of friends do we have? When you're ready, you can release that down to the mat. We're going to come back onto our elbows, again spreading out those fingertips. This time I'm going to encourage you to press your elbows down into the mat and then pull them toward your body, deepening this Sphinx stretch. And you'll feel this through your low back and through your mid back as they engage, as those muscles engage. You'll feel the stretch on the front side of your body through your low abdomen and up through your core. When you're ready, you're going to take that right hand, cross it in front, and then reach back, drawing that left foot in towards your body. Thinking about still keeping some tension in that front arm so you're not sinking into that shoulder. Your shoulder's still down away from your ear. Drawing that foot in towards your body, just as far as feels comfortable to you. Taking some deep breaths. And then releasing that foot down, coming back onto our elbows. For our last sweet pose here, think about relaxing your glutes and relaxing your thighs. Notice how that changes this pose for you. And then when you're ready, you're going to start to lower yourself down, bringing your hands underneath your shoulders. We're going to pause here just for a second. We're going to bring our feet up and windshield wiper those feet once more. Again, releasing that low back. Breathing deeply. And bringing our feet back to center. Go ahead and relax those legs down toward the mat. This time, lifting your head, pushing up into a modified plank pose first. Then shifting those hips back very slowly, coming into child's pose. Resting your forehead on the mat. Releasing any tension you feel in your low back. Ready? We're going to go ahead and walk those hands very slowly back towards our knees. We're going to take our hands behind our back, interlace those fingers, and pull down at our tailbone, and open up the chest. If you'd like to look up toward the ceiling, you can. And then we're going to slowly move into what's called a rabbit pose. We're going to leave our hands together behind us. We're going to fold forward, resting our heads on the mat, and then we're going to draw our hands up over top of our heads. So it looks a little bit like this. If you need to, you can start to move into this slowly. You're going to raise your hips as well. So almost like our arms create the long ears of the rabbit. Taking some deep breaths here. Rolling up the mat if you need a little extra cushion for your head. And then when you're ready, you're going to start to shift your hips and release your hands. You're going to draw those hands forward, coming back into child's pose. When you're ready, you can start to walk your hands to the right side of your mat, opening up the side body. And walking those hands back to the other side of the mat. And opening up the other side body. One more deep breath here. And then coming back to center, back into our child's pose. Ready, we're going to pull up onto all fours. This time we're going to move into puppy dog pose. And so we're going to bring our elbows down to the mat first. Our hips are still up over top of our knees here. And then we're going to extend those arms out, resting our foreheads on the mat. For puppy dog pose, this is almost like a variation of child's pose. With your hips up in the air. Again, taking some deep breaths. Letting that heart kind of melt down toward the floor. When you're ready, you're going to engage your core and your triceps to start to move yourself back up onto your elbows and then up onto your palms here. And this time we're going to start to shift our hips back, sliding our left hand underneath our right arm, coming into the needle pose on one side. One of the things that I was noticing about that story is that the little animals don't really see the value of friendship with the elephant until their own needs are at play there. And I think sometimes we do that in our friendships too. Maybe it's a reflection question that we can ask today to say, where have I used my friendships to get my own needs met? And not judging that, but just noticing that. Noticing maybe how often we do that, if that's a pattern or if there is some reciprocity in those relationships. When you're ready, you're going to take that left hand, slide it forward, this time taking the right hand under, relaxing down toward the back again. When you're ready, you can start to slide that right hand out in feet again, and then pull yourself up onto all fours once more. And repositioning yourself on the mat, making sure that those knees are directly under your hips and your wrists are directly under your shoulders. Coming into a neutral spine position, making sure that your neck is just a natural extension of your spine. It's not hanging down or arching to one side or the other. When we're ready, we're going to start to shift our weight to the left knee and the right hand. Bringing first that back leg up, parallel to the floor, leaving our hips square to the mat. And if this feels good, feel free to stay here, or you can start to raise your left hand as well. Really pressing that heel back towards one wall, reaching fingertips toward the other wall. Or if you'd rather point your toes, reaching your toes toward one wall and the fingertips toward the other. And then we're going to go ahead and exhale, elbow to knee underneath our body. And then when we inhale, leaving those two things bent, we're going to come up into tiger pose. So we've got a bent knee and a bent elbow. Breathing deeply, drawing the core in toward the body, and then releasing that all the way down to the mat. And shaking out that arm and the leg if you need to. We're going to do the other side. So this time shifting our weight to the right knee and the left hand. We're going to start by taking that back leg up and making sure that your hips are square to the mat. So you're not opening your hips to the side. You're leaving them parallel to the floor. And then if that feels good, go ahead and stay there, or you can raise that right arm out as well. And if you want to put your toes in this pose, feel free to do that too. Drawing that belly button in towards your spine. On your next exhale, go ahead and draw your right elbow and your left knee together under your body. Leaving those things bent, we're going to come up into tiger pose on the other side. So your bicep is coming up toward your ear. Your foot is almost like you're going to stamp the bottom of your foot on the top of the ceiling. And then when you're ready, go ahead and release that all down. This time we're going to shift so that we can slide our right knee forward, coming into pigeon pose. Fold it down over top of that front knee. Take a nice deep breath. One of the other things that I have noticed about our culture here in the United States is that we can be very utilitarian in our relationships. And so I think that lends itself to us saying, you know, what do I need? What do you need? How can we help each other? But it almost becomes transactional in relationship. And I think there's a deeper level of relationship. Not that transactional stuff is bad. Again, we're not judging that. But there's an invitation for those of us who have maybe lived in other cultures or, traveled abroad. We have maybe experienced some of those things. A deeper level of relationship of just relating to each other, not because it's transactional or because I'm going to get anything out of it other than just being. When you're ready, you can walk your hands underneath those shoulders. We're going to slide that right knee back. We're going to slide the left knee forward. Coming into pigeon pose on the other side. So coming down onto our elbows, folding forward over that top knee. Taking some nice deep breaths here. Really relaxing into this pose. Seeing if you can soften that front hip just a little further. And then walking those hands underneath your shoulders. And sliding that left knee back. We're going to go ahead and tuck our toes, lifting our hips up toward the ceiling. Pushing back into our first downward facing dog of the day. And if your heels don't touch or if you need to keep a bend in your knees, feel free to do that. Again, you're trying to draw your ears down alongside of your biceps. You're trying to really push the mat away from you with your palms to engage the back side of your shoulders. And then we're going to shift our weight forward, moving onto our palms, coming into plank pose. And then shifting our weight back, we're going to move into downward facing dog again. Going back and forth between these two poses at your own pace. And if this feels like this is too much for your body today, that's just fine. Then you're going to drop your knees here, and you can do modified plank, and then back down into child's pose. That's a really great way to stretch and utilize those same muscles just in a gentler fashion for your body today. Then when you're ready, you're going to meet me back in downward facing dog. So for those of you who are in child's pose, if you can, go ahead and bring yourself up onto your feet. And then start to walk your hands very slowly back towards your feet for a forward fold to the back of your mat. Again, tucking your chin. Allowing the crown of your head to fall down toward the mat. And bending your knees. Placing your hands on your knees. I invite you to slowly round up. Very good. We're going to move into our balancing postures first today before we do our active portion. And so if you need to move towards a chair or a table or something, feel free to do that. If you're good on your mat, then feel free to stay there too. We're going to start with our feet hip width apart, with our hips stacked over our ankles, shoulders over top of our hips, ears over top of our shoulders. In a nice mountain pose. Taking a nice deep breath. Again, engaging that core. Feeling how you're grounded into this place and time through your feet on the mat. And then when you're ready, starting to shift your weight to that left foot. We're going to draw the right knee up. And then if you can, you're going to just simply take that right foot straight out in front of your body. So your knee is at a right angle at your hip here, but then also at your knee as well. And then if you can, think about, because in our story we had the elephant, right? So our leg is going to act like the nose of the elephant. And we're going to make some big ears with our hands. So we're going to take our hands out to the side, right? Like they're big ears, drawing some big ears. But this adds a little bit of movement, which ups the level of challenge of this balancing posture. Keeping those backs nice and straight.
It's not my best.
That's okay. And then when you're ready, go ahead and draw that foot back in towards your body and then step out to the side, shaking all of that out. And then we're going to do the other side. So again, standing nice and tall. First, feeling centered and grounded. And then when you're ready, you're going to shift your weight to that right foot, drawing that left knee forward, finding your balance first. Once you've found it, go ahead and draw that foot straight out from your body. Again, you've got a right angle here at your hip, but also there at your knee. And then if it's comfortable for you, start to go ahead and add that movement in. Again, drawing those big ears. Doing that several times. Yeah, these are African elephants, not Asian elephants, for sure. Otherwise, our arms would be much closer to our bodies. We'd be like this. And then when you're ready, go ahead and draw that foot back in towards your body, stepping out, and then shaking all of that out.
Good way to remember the story.
Yeah, with all the poses, right? We're going to move to the back of our mats. We're going to start in a low squat. So if you want to take your feet kind of about as wide as the mat, and then allow those hips to sink down in between. You might need to go wider than your mat, and so if you need to do that, feel free. And again, if this is not accessible to you, you can always come down into a chair pose. Think about straightening your spine as much as possible. And then you're going to place your hands on the mat. You're going to lift your hips up, turn your toes toward the short edge of your mat. Coming into a forward fold. And lowering your hips down, we're going to lift up into chair pose. You can either bring your hands to heart center, or if it's easier for you to keep your balance, bring your hands out in front of you. Or if you want to activate your back muscles, You can draw your arms up alongside your ears. Either way is just fine. Then placing your hands on the mat, we're going to lift up those hips again, tucking our chins. This time, inhaling up, we're going to put our palms on our shins, straightening our back, again allowing our heads and our necks to be a natural extension of that spine. And then lowering all the way down. We're going to bend our knees, put our hands on our knees, and slowly round ourselves up. Head should be the last thing that comes up. Inhale both arms up. This time, we're going to step forward with our left foot, and we're going to open up our arms to the side toward the long edge of the mat. So we're going to do like this, coming into our warrior two pose. Then we're going to not windshield wiper, what is this called? Windmill our arms all the way down to the mat, allowing the back heel to come up. We're on a low lunge. We're going to step that left foot back to meet the right foot, up into our plank, shifting our hips up for downward facing dog. And then coming back down into our plank pose. We're going to step that left foot forward once more. Coming back into our low lunge. We're going to raise that back foot. Again, windmill those arms up into warrior two. And then we're going to go ahead and drop those arms, straighten that front leg, and then heel toe that foot all the way back to the back. So again, taking our feet as wide as the mat, or a little bit wider. We're going to allow those hips to sink all the way down. Coming into garland pose, or low yogi squat. Drawing those shoulders down away from your ears. And placing your hands on the mat. We're going to lift those hips and then turn those toes toward the shoe edge of the mat. Then shifting our hips down and back. We're going to lift up into chair pose. And whatever version of arms you would like to do in this chair pose. When you're ready, taking those hands back down to the mat, lifting those hips once more, tucking your chin. Then placing your hands on your shins, coming up into a flat back pose. Then exhale all the way forward once more. This time bending your knees, placing your hands on your knees, very slowly rounding yourself up. Again, the head should be the last thing that comes into place. Then taking both arms up overhead. This time stepping forward with your right foot, or coming into warrior two on the other side. And then we're going to windmill those arms down to the mat, allowing the back heel to come up. And our nice little, our runner's lunge rather here. Stepping that right foot back to meet the left. Holding our plank pose just for a moment, and then shifting those hips up, coming into downward facing dog. And then shifting forward, back into our plank pose. We're going to step forward, this time with that right foot. And we're going to windmill those arms up as we lay the back foot, coming into warrior two. We're going to drop those arms, straighten that front leg, and then heel toe that foot all the way back to the back of the mat. You might feel your heart rate a little bit elevated at this point, and that's just fine. So we're gonna do that same thing again. We're gonna take our feet out wider than the mat, as wide as or wider than the mat, allowing our hips to sink down. Then coming into our low yogi squat. Placing our hands on the mat, lifting our hips, and then turning our toes for that short edge of the mat. This time we're going to go ahead and just bend our knees slightly, placing our hands on our knees and rounding ourselves up. We're going to step forward with that left foot. Again, coming into our warrior two stance. This time we're going to bend that front elbow, take that elbow to the front knee, and then stretch over top, coming into our side angle. Really getting a nice stretch all the way along that right side of the body. Go ahead and take that arm all the way down to the mat, allowing that back heel to come up off of the mat, and back into runner's lunge. This time you're taking that back leg, stepping it forward to meet your left foot. And then heel toeing your feet out as wide as the mat, allowing yourself to sink down between those legs once more for your low yogi squat. Placing your hands on the mat, go ahead and lift your hips, turn your toes toward the long edge, or toward the short edge, excuse me. This time coming up into our flat back pose. So hands on your shins, flat back. Exhale all the way forward. Bending the knees, hands on your knees, and then rounding yourself up. This time we're stepping back with the left leg. So we're coming into our warrior two on the other side. Bending that front elbow, taking that front elbow to the front knee, stretching up and over our side angle. Again, getting a really nice stretch along the side body. And taking that all the way down to the mat, allowing that back heel to come up. This time stepping that right foot back to meet the left. Coming into our plank pose, lifting the hips, for downward facing dog. Then coming back into plank. And then lifting those hips, this time walking those hands back towards your feet. Holding forward here, then bending the knees, hands on your knees. And very slowly rounding ourselves up. Very good. Let me double check our time because I had planned for us to do that one more time on the other side again. Okay. So again, feet as wide as the mat last time through this. So we're taking our hips down. We're going to place our hands on the mat, lift our hips, toes toward the shoulder edge, bending our knees slightly, hands on our knees, rounding ourselves up. This time stepping forward with our right foot. We're going to have our perpendicular stance for our warrior two position. And then bending that front elbow, go ahead and tip down. Allow that left arm to come up overhead for side angle. Really reaching those fingertips toward one wall, even as you plant the edge of your foot in toward the mat. And coming all the way down to the mat. Allow that back foot to come up. We're going to take that back foot and step forward to meet the right foot. Heel toeing our feet, again as wide as the mat. Allowing ourselves to sink down between those two legs. And placing our hands on the mat, Go ahead and lift your hips, turning your toes toward the short edge of your mat. This time coming up into flat back. And then exhaling all the way down. This time we're going to go ahead and bend our knees, placing our hands on our knees, slowly rounding ourselves up. And stepping back with our right leg, coming into warrior two on the other side. And windmill those arms all the way down to the mat. Allow that back heel to come up. Step the left foot back, meet the right. Shifting our hips up toward downward facing dog. And coming back down into our plank pose. Last time, hips coming up for downward facing dog and walking our hands all the way back. Coming into a forward fold and bending the knees, hands on the knees, and very slowly rounding ourselves up. And that's the end of the active portion for today. So we're gonna come, yeah, we made it. So we're gonna come back to the center here. We're gonna come back to our original stance where we were warming up. Our feet are about 45 degrees out to either side. And then we're gonna fold forward here, bringing our hands down to the mat or down to our shins or knees for support. Allowing our heads to hang down. And then here again, if you would like, bending one knee at a time, just shifting your weight from side to side. The other piece of our story today that we didn't talk about yet is that sometimes we feel like the elephant in the story. We feel like we are not given a chance to be a good friend, or like people continue to reject us. And so I would encourage you, just if that's where you're at in the story today, just to remind yourself of the amazing qualities that God has created you with, and that you have value regardless of the acceptance of other people. Just hang on to that truth. Coming back to center, we're going to go ahead and heel toe our feet in just a little bit further, stretching forward. Then we're going to bend our knees deeply, coming down to the mat. Allow ourselves to sit down. This time we're going to come onto our backs and rolling ourselves down, drawing our knees into our chest. If you'd like, you can rock back and forth across that low back. Breathing deeply here. Coming back to center, go ahead and take those feet down to the mat. We're going to heel toe those feet again, wider than the mat, dropping one knee in toward the center first. Using our breath to help our bodies cool down. Feeling the coolness of the air as you inhale through your nose. Releasing any excess heat as you exhale through your mouth. When you're ready, you can take that right knee back up and drop the other knee down toward the center. Checking in with your body. Slowing your breath down. take that left knee up, heel toe those feet together. You can either bring the soles of your feet together and allow your knees to fall open down toward the mat. Or if that's not comfortable for you, you can take one leg at a time down to the mat. Either way, for our final relaxation pose. This time, just allowing your body to rest, kind of melt into the mat. No more cultivation of breath. Just let it flow naturally. No more cultivation of the mind. Just allow it to rest. And we'll take a moment's silence here to end our practice. When you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Start to draw your attention back to this moment. If you'd like, you can round yourself up towards a seated position or turn to one side and gently push yourself up. Once you've found a comfortable seated position, let me pray for us. God, thank you that you model relationship for us. That you don't model just those kind of superficial relationship, but that you model deep relationship for us. God, would you be with us as we do some self-reflection today about our relationships, about what kinds of relationships we have in our lives, about the things that you have invited us into greater wholeness and into greater health. God, would you continue to give us the courage to step into those things? But first, just to become aware of them and to notice them, and then to have the courage to step into greater wholeness and healing. And God, if we're feeling like the elephant in the story today, would you just remind us of your presence? That you have not left us, you have not forsaken us, that you are ever present with us, and that your loving guidance goes with us, even today. We love you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you all for coming.
Everybody's staying on.